how is mold mitigated?
So mold, it takes a special contractor, and that contractor needs to be certified in mitigation of mold, because by spreading mold spores or cross-contaminating mold spores, that's where these difficulties come into effect with homeowners. So having a quality contractor out there, set up containments around the areas of concern, put in HEPA filtration devices, all of those kinds of things, negative air containments, but all of those things are the quality control measures that needed to be taken and put into place before mitigation done, is to prevent cross-contamination. The first and foremost, a company or a customer that hires a professional mold mitigation company has to make sure that that company is first and foremost not cross-contaminating.
Sure, that makes sense.
So as a mitigation, we want to remove and replace anything that's soluble. All of our drywalls, all of our baseboards, all of our linoleums, all of our underlayments, all of those kinds of things, they have to be removed. Insulations, all of those things are removed and replaced. Concretes, all of those things, those are non-soluble. They are porous, but they're non-soluble, so mold can't feed through them, and so mold can be cleaned off of those kinds of surfaces. Metals, all of those kinds of surfaces, mold can be wiped off of. But if you have anything else soluble, we've got to remove it if mold is on it. Now, when it comes to the framing of a home, we call it a structure. And when it comes to the framing of a structure, once we get past the baseboards and the drywalls and all of those things, we tend to, us and insurance companies don't want to tear the home apart.
Yeah.
So once we get to the framing, we can address the framing with quality control measures as well. So we take special HEPA filtration devices that are hooked to special sanders, and we sand down the bad wood to the fine wood again. So once we've mitigated the 2x4 or the framing or 2x6, we get rid of all the mold, we kill all of the bacteria, and now we've got staining still there. And with that staining, once that staining's there, then we take HEPA filtration sand devices and sand that down to the fine wood.
Nice.
Once we've done that, then we take special sealing agents. These special sealants are primers, but they are mold prohibitors, and we then seal those wood areas with a sealant when we're done.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, someone told me that I can just put Kills on an area with mold, and that'll take care of the problem.
No. So I'm glad we're talking about that. We just talked about that primer or that sealant that we put on, and we don't use Kills. You don't want to use Kills. Kills, we find, is one of the first foremost reasons why contractors like us don't use it is because it's bad for the environment. We're finding lots and lots of kills in the environment can cause some problems. So we use special IAQs regulated for us, for mold mitigation professionals, to seal those areas. And they need to be mitigated before kills is put, or a sealant is put on them. If you just put a sealant on them, the mold is still there.
Yeah.
It's underneath everything now.
Yeah.
So when we work directly with the EPA, like I talked about, a lot of those companies don't want us to seal before we're done, before they retest. So what they'll ask us to do is to seal within their protocol, but they want to visually inspect and take an inspection before sealing, is because they don't want companies hiding all of the mold behind kills.
Sure.
So before you can even seal it, if you're having a professional do it, it has to be inspected by an EPA consultant, and the EPA consultant then signs it off and says it's clear and it's good, and then that EPA consultant can tell you now you can seal. Because if an EPA regulated consultant comes onto your job and you've already sealed, they're going to say, we don't know if you cleaned this correctly.
Sure.
So we're not going to sign off on this.
Wow.
So you need to make sure you've got your P's and Q's, your ducks in a row to make sure that you're working directly with these regulated EPA consultants.
Sure, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, so now when we were talking off camera, you had mentioned something about the Marshall fires.
Yeah, we're really working on the Marshall fires right now. So there's a lot of people in need. What's happened down there is there's a lot of destruction of homes that are completely burnt to the ground, but there are hundreds and hundreds of homes, maybe a couple of thousand homes that still have the smoke damage. What's happened is on the jobs we're working on, we're working on attics and garages because those attics and garages have ventilation, and the fire caused all of the smoke and ash to go up into the ventilation, into the attics and into the garages because they're not closed off, and we've got tons of soot, tons of ash. And what's happened is we don't know if that ash is contaminated.
Sure.
Right. So right now, even though they're saying the insurance companies are having difficulty paying some of us like that, we're telling them we have to be protected right now. And so a big thing is we're in PPE in those areas, we're in respirators, and we're removing insulation covered in soot that we quite don't know if it's
safe or not,
contaminated or not. So we take all the same quality control measures, Miss Rachel, that we do for mold, we do for smoke. So our access entries are all contained with HEPA filtration.
Wow.
Where all of those areas so we make smoke, contaminated smoke, we pretend like it's mold and we clean it the same. We remove the bad insulation, we treat it with special chemicals. So what's interesting about fires, we use pairing agents, because there's masking agents, pairing agents. And masking agents, just like it sounds, masking agents hide the smell of smoke, and pairing agents molecularly bond to the smoke atom.
Oh, nice.
And so we have these special chemicals that are called pairing agents, and we can chemically and with chemistry break down the smoke smells. Molecularly to break down those things, and so then we use treatments to treat it, and then we seal it just like we would a mold job once we know that it's been cleaned, sealed, and mitigated properly. But we're working on lots and lots of homes right now down there. That's actually right now is our kind of our bread and butter, because there's just so much work that needs to be done that we're handling a lot of fires.
Yeah, a lot of people, I mean, those fires were just devastating. A lot of people lost everything. It's
hard, and it's actually a little stressful to be in the environment.
Yeah.
Because you know that the people around you are so hurt and almost
devastated.
Broken, you know.
Yeah.
Even the ones that have their home saved are broken in the way that, how come my home's there and my neighbor's not?
Yeah.
You know, so we love working with people, and so it's important. We just take care of those kinds of people, and that's kind of what we're doing right now.
That's awesome. Okay, so you mitigate mold, you mitigate fire.
Yep.
What else do you?
We're a water damage specialist, so fire, water, and mold.
Okay.
We are those guys in the middle of the night when a bathtub's overflowing or a toilet's overflowing.
You're who we call.
Yeah, I bring out the fans and I clean up the extraction, all the extraction units and fans and antimicrobials if we've got bacteria. And those are the fun things that we do.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, how can people get a hold of you?
I'm Tony, and we're Nautilus Water and Mold Damage Professionals. I'm Tony at nautiluswaterdamage.com. And our website is nautiluswaterdamage.com as well. But thank you for your time, Rachel.
Thank you. And one last question. Yeah. You've been in business for 20-some...
Yeah, my entire adult life.
Yeah.
It's been, 25 years plus.
Awesome.
I've owned a couple of different businesses, managed most of my young adult life, project managed many restoration companies, and then decided to dive in and buy our own and have a family-owned business, run business.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Ms. Rachel.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.